Hey, what's going, y'all? It is yours truly once again. This particular upload is the pre-finale. I decided for my final two uploads, they shall be podcast format because I wanted to make sure everything was articulated a certain way, basically saving the best for last. Without any further ado, let's get off into it. All right. Most educated females are Sigma females. A so-called independent woman, more than likely a Sigma female too. Certain female politicians can also fit into this category. More than likely, that Sigma female has an alternative sexuality. It's a given. Because, like I've said previously, she hasn't been used to a man leading her. But this doesn't mean that she's a sexual deviant either. This society has actually made it easier for Sigma females and other feminine genders because of social engineering. There was a time basically in this society where women nor females did not have to live out their lives alone. Basically, she could go through what you would consider the normal rites of passage in regards to her development into womanhood. Of course, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that's not the case now. A lot of Sigma females that are feral, because basically Sigma is feral. So if you don't know what feral is, it's just basically like if you look at in the animal world, animals that just know how to survive on their own when they're not in their element, especially those animals that were once domesticated. Those animals put out of their element, they figure out how to make it in the wild somehow. That's a feral situation. And so a lot of Sigma females, once again, that are feral, have learned how to survive on their own after being abandoned. She'll start to have a feral state of mind. And this represents a majority of most females and women in this society. Most females and women in this Western society are feral. Therefore, most of them are more than likely Sigma females, and only a few of them mature into Sigma women. And this depends on whether they matured from their feral state, because otherwise they will always be feral. And one must make the distinction between feral and stray. A woman or a female that has a Sigma background is by no means a stray. A stray is just someone or something that when out of its element, it has no way of surviving. But that's obviously not the case with someone that has the Sigma background, in the way that you ended up solitary and that you ended up having to survive on your own. You're not a stray in that situation if you figured out how to survive on your own. But going back to what I'm saying, in regards to the Sigma female, if she just matures more from the feral state of her Sigma background, her maturity will be based on if she runs into a man that gets her off the streets, per se. He stops her from roaming. He stops her from roaming. He stops her from scavenging. Most of these so-called single women are actually feral females, aka Sigma females. They're the type that are used to doing things on their own and don't want a man's assistance. And in many ways, they don't need a man's assistance, just giving away the society or that environment could be engineered for more or less their niche. They actually thrive in certain environments on their own as a feminine gender. So this definitely isn't, no pun intended whatsoever. A lot of this has to do with that particular Sigma female being forced into an environment where she had to be on her own with no assistance. That's the other thing, I guess. It's not just more or less, she ends up in an environment that favors her. Sometimes you may have a set feminine gender that is in an environment, she's in an environment where it kind of forces her to be a certain way. Going back more on what I want to say with this, other times, her rebellious tendencies cause her to want to thrive in an environment where she doesn't have to worry about assistance, or there are environments that promote so-called single woman lifestyles. Basically, these environments enable them based on certain types of government assistance or salaries. Anything other than assistance from a man or a family, basically. And of course, this is not all Sigma females. So once again, no pun intended. There may be some Sigma females that obviously do well on their own. No, not even no government assistance or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So if you keep in mind what I meant by furrow, this is all that I'm basically explaining. You know, whether you can make it on your own without family assistance, or take it a step further, you can make it on your own without family nor government assistance. Now, a mature Sigma female, aka a Sigma woman, is basically one who, despite becoming solitary, is less rebellious. Even if she was initially rebellious, the Sigma woman basically gets to a point in her life where she knows she can't do things on her own anymore. But oftentimes, and unfortunately, this realization she comes upon occurs in her latter years of her life or her midlife. And she has the aches. She has the aches and pains to show for it. You know, whether she had to work hard in a union factory job or just whatever, being a parcel service deliverer. You know, she may work for UPS or the postal service. Just a lot of stuff that she had to do on her own, but she gets older and it's just, she ain't that much of a spring chicken like she used to be. But see, that's really more or less to me the way a Sigma female develops into her womanhood. A lot of it is just due to a lot of the aches and pains that come along the way, but with that said, not all Sigma females were initially rebellious, even though they still become solitary. That is a major disclaimer one needs to know. Deep down inside, some Sigma females wish that there was a way they didn't have to do the things that they do on their own anymore. And they also hope one day that they can discover who they really are. This will take that particular female down the path of discovering what she will learn of her womanhood. Yet, a lot of her past. She'll learn a lot about her past too, but this basically means that, putting all her stories together, this actually what helps a Sigma female develop into her womanhood, because it's not this case in point where she's encountered true femininity and things like this. Obviously I said initially about her encountering a certain man that can get her to live a different way. But at that time, she's willing. And that's only when a Sigma female is willing. And this is something that's rare. Rarely is a Sigma female willing. But there are rare occasions. When a Sigma female is willing. And that prompts her into this Sigma woman type of structure. Because to me personally, a woman can't be a woman without a man, But this is not to denote anything of a Sigma female, because I see that a Sigma female stands out from other females, because I do a lot of the female woman logic. It's one thing to just be just a female, you're just underdeveloped, period. But at least with a Sigma female, she may not have fully developed into her womanhood, but she is developing in her own way, the best way that she can, until maybe she stumbles upon or runs into better influences, so, but at least up until that point, she has some scars and some aches and some pains to show for her further development, especially the Sigma female that wasn't initially rebellious. But no matter how everybody gets to the table of success, you get to this table of success based on you wanting to do things differently. So this idea of the Sigma woman, to me, is something that needs to be further explored. Right now, we just hear online, on social media, and even on YouTube or podcast about the Sigma female. No one has said much about the Sigma woman. And I'll be talking more about the Sigma woman in the finale. Signing out.